I have here the Predator 1400 inverter generator from Harbor Freight. I bought this a while ago with my own money and I've been using it a lot. So I figured it was time for me to give a review of this since I bought it and haven't really talked to you guys about it yet. I bought it out of necessity when we were down in North Carolina when we were living out of this Tacoma here. Well, I realized that I couldn't rely on my power stations and solar the whole time to power my laptops and stuff for work. So I ended up picking up this generator out of necessity. I've been using a ton. I would use this about every day when we were living out of the truck to recharge all my battery stations. I actually use it to run a full-size house air conditioner that we used in the tent when we were camping in really hot conditions. It didn't actually power that, but I'll talk about that in the whole review. So I figured it was time to show everybody my review of this. I know a lot of people are interested in a generator either for their home use or for their camping use. So let's go ahead and hop into this review. Also, I apologize if you don't recognize me. I'm still the same guy. I just shaved my beard. It got really annoying. But onto the Predator. This is a Predator 1400, but it doesn't actually run 1400 watts. That's the max watts it'll actually hit. But while it's sitting there running, it'll actually only hit about 1100 watts. This is plenty for anybody that's taking this out camping. And it also should be plenty for anybody that needs a little bit of power at their house during a power outage. This isn't big enough to run like a well in your pump or anything like that, but it should be enough to get you through until your power comes back on. Also, I use this to charge up my power stations in the event that I'm going to be out of power for longer durations. I have multiple power stations from companies sending me them, and I use them out on camping trips all the time. So I fire this up, charge them up to 100%, and then I have quiet source of battery backup if I ever need it. And that's how I use this when we were out camping all the time. I would just fire this up during the day, let it run for a few hours, charge up on my power stations, and then shut it off. And that's kind of how I used it. I never really plugged things directly into it. I was just charging things off of it. And during that time, it worked great. Now, as I mentioned, I use this living out of the truck. So it's been through a lot of environments. I never stored this inside. I would just leave it back here and I would strap it to the side of my bed rack and I would just drive around with it. So it's been out in the rain a good bit, but I try to keep it out of the rain as much as I can because I would have it underneath my bed rack, but it would get wet. I never had any issues with that. They say not to use it while it's raining, and I haven't had it running while it's raining at all. Some of the environments that I have used this in that have caused problems was sand. We stayed out on a beach for about a week, and when I was using this to run everything, it ran everything fine, but the sand kind of beat it up pretty good. So there's an on switch right here, and the on switch is a little bit messed up. I'm sure I can fix it. I just haven't had the time and really cared to do it. Now, because of the sand, it got inside of the system here. This on button doesn't really work. Sometimes I have to open up the side panel here when I switch it on to manually kind of pull the switch out. And that's kind of my bad. I left it deep in the sand, and when I woke up, the sand was like up to here. So watch that. If you're going to be using this out in the sand, you will get sand inside of the unit and it can affect the way things are running. Really though, that's the only issue I've had. I'm sure I could fix it if I would just take it apart and clean where the switch is at. I just haven't got around to it yet. Other than that, when you do buy these, they don't have any oil, so you're gonna have to fill them up with oil. Do not just come home and fire it up. So pick up some oil as well. I haven't even changed oil on this and I've ran it a ton. I don't know, just never really thought about it. I should probably do that for this season if I'm gonna take this out. But I don't really use this when I'm going out camping now. On my normal camping trips, are only like 3 days. I only use this when we're going out on longer trips, like usually about a month. I'll take this with me because I'm gonna have to edit videos and work out of the truck. It is nice to have around the house though too for a backup power source because I bought a house and the power here deep in the woods is not that reliable. Now this is rated at 1100 watts while it's running, which is pretty good for anything, but it is also only rated at 9.2 amps. If you go over the amperage, it will kick in the safety mode and go into power protect and it will shut off. How do I know this? Well, because when we were living out of this truck, we were down in North Carolina and I had a house air conditioner because, you know, I'm a little hillbilly-ish. So I took a house air conditioner and I put it into the window of the tent. This worked really good at keeping the tent very cold. It was almost 90 degrees when we were camping the 1 week down there. And usually I would go on top of mountains to kind of keep that temperature down. This time when we were camping, I was down in a valley and it got very hot. So I figured, hey, I'll throw the air conditioner up at the window. It was really backwoods and really hillbilly-ish, but it worked. But I had to do a workaround to get it to actually run because when the compressor would kick on, it would then hit the surge protector on this and shut it down because it went over that 9.2 amperage rating. I did a workaround with this because I would take my power station that had a higher rating, I would plug the charger into this, then plug the AC into the power station because it had a bigger inverter into that power station. This ran fine. I ran this generator all night long that was charging up my power station, that was running the AC. Like I said, all night, so about 9 hours of that AC running. I didn't run out of gas in this, and it ran quiet enough where I didn't even hear it running outside, and we got a really good night's sleep because it was so cold. Kind of a weird use case. I'm sure nobody else would try to run a house air conditioner off this inside of a tent, but I tried it. It didn't work, but I found a workaround, and that's how I did it. On to the quietness of this unit here. I think it's extremely quiet to the point where I would have this running on one side of the truck and we would be sitting on the opposite side of the truck, and it wasn't annoying when we were out camping, and it wasn't like I'm tired of hearing this generator run kind of situation. But I don't recommend, if you're going to go out camping for 3 days and you're going to a campground or something like that, I just don't recommend bringing one of these. Nobody wants to hear a generator run when they're out camping. So I would only use this when we were dispersed camping. That means when you're out in the wilderness, national forest, and the sites are very far apart, you don't have to worry about kind of pissing off other people that are trying to camp as well. You don't want to be rude to other campers that are just trying to enjoy nature. So I don't really like using this when I'm out camping now, only when I'm living out of the truck and it's a necessity. But if you're interested in how quiet this is, you can sleep with it running. I have slept with it running in the tent, as I mentioned, when we were running that AC. I'm gonna go ahead and fire this up for you though, and try to do an audio test so you can hear how it runs. But I'm not gonna use the mic on my chest here. I'll use the mic on my phone. Onto the phone camera here, I just took off the side panel. You can see I have a bunch of sand down in there. It's a mess, but it still works great. I actually have not ran this in a few months now. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to fire this up. I'll let you guys know if there's any issues with firing up after letting it sit for so long. And to show you how this button's messed up here, I'll try to show you. This switch here moves this, that little black thing right there. And when it's pushed in, it's off. And when it's pulled out, it's able to turn on. It doesn't pull out the whole way because there's sand and just gunk in there. I have to clean it up. But I just take the side panel off and push it with my finger. And then the startup is pretty simple. I already have oil on it. Everything's already go. I have this on run, this on. This is the fuel. I have it on. It's been a few months. I didn't have the switch on start. There she is, on and ready to go. So there it is, running, very quiet. I'm sure you guys can still hear me pretty well. I want to show you guys a cool switch that's on this. Makes it a little bit quieter. This right here limits how much throttle it is using. So when you hit it on, it'll only ramp up as much as it needs to produce for power. With it off, it'll just kind of ramp up pretty high and be louder, but pretty nice if you're running not that much power intensive stuff. It'll keep it pretty quiet. I want to walk to the front of the truck and show you how quiet this thing really is. So I'm now at the front of the truck and it is very quiet. I'll stop talking so you can actually hear it. Very silent hub, quieter than a lawnmower, quieter than a weed whacker, very quiet. Well, that was me starting up the Predator. I have not started this up since October on our last long camping trip, and it started right up. The only problem I had was I'm a little bit stupid, and I didn't have it put the start. I had it set the run, so the choke wasn't doing its job. So yeah, user error is a thing. Make sure you do it right. I noticed a lot of these get returned to Harbor Freight, and I think it might be a lot of user error problems. My dad just bought a bigger Predator unit, and we noticed that one of the returns was over full on oil, and that'll stop them from running. So there's a lot of things that you just need to know before you start jumping into these. And 9 times out of 10, if it's not working for you or not starting, it's probably user error. For example, I filled this thing up full of sand and it wouldn't start the one day. And when we were out camping, I was like, what the heck's going on? And it was because the start switch was not actually activating and it was not on, so it wouldn't start. My fault because I filled the whole thing up with sand when I was camping. So now I got to move it with my finger. But all in all, I'm a big fan of this Predator 1400. I don't think it's the right choice if you're looking for something to run your entire house. This will run a couple fridges, your TV, the necessities in event of a power outage, but it's not going to run your entire house. You have to get something a little bit bigger. But it is a great thing to have for a little bit of a backup. On the front, there are 2 AC ports here, some USB ports. I can open them up. I've never really opened them before. You can also tie these units together and run 2 of them at the same time. Pretty neat setup. And it also has carbon monoxide, so if you're running this in a garage or something, it will shut itself off if it detects that, which is a great safety feature because you just saw not everybody is smart. I don't even know how to use this half the time. So user error is a thing, and that'll stop you from making a critical mistake on your life. But this Predator 1400 gets about a 10 out of 10 on my review chart. I really like this thing, bought it with my own money, have had no issues with it, and it's the only reason that I was able to live out of this truck for 7 months and explore the East Coast, because without it, I wouldn't have enough power to charge my battery boxes and run my laptops and stuff for work. So good job, Predator. Good job, Harbor Freight, because I think this is Harbor Freight's brand. Big fan of this thing. If you're on the fence and you actually need a generator in this use case, I recommend getting this one. Sometimes when you go into Harbor Freight, you can find them refurbished on the side there. That's actually where I got this one. I got this on sale for like $320. So if you're a DIY guy and you can work on things and figure out problems, I recommend getting the open box one, the one without the warranty, because you can just work on it yourself and usually they're not that big of a problem. But if you don't really want to work on things and you don't want to have any issues, I do recommend just getting the one with the warranty, the brand new one. It is worth the extra money. I saved about $100 getting the open box one that they had in Harbor Freight sitting on the side. But if you don't want to work on things, you just want things to work, just get the new one. 10 out of 10. I hope this review did it justice. I've never reviewed a generator before. I'm just explaining how it's worked for me, and I've liked it. Thank you guys for watching. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It means a ton to me. We're on a road to 10,000 subscribers, and we're almost there. Check this video out right here, though. It's actually really good, and I'll see you guys in the next one.